Let me share this. Share this on the Twitter. Yeah. There we go. Popped up. Perfect. All right. YouTube. All right. We're locked. We loaded. We ready. Pay for play. Week 5 of the college football season. It's me. It's your boy Sam. Sam, first and foremost. How you doing, brother?
Oh, we're doing all right. Shitty week gambling last week. Sucked even worse that I couldn't even watch. I mean, I was having to keep my phone up at the wedding I was at. It was not a good day to be at a wedding on college football Saturday, but we're back. I think we got an even longer CVS receipt this week, so we're just spraying and praying at this point. If you want to fade me, that's fine, but and maybe you'll win some money then. But you know, this is what we're gonna do all season, so we're just gonna let it go.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And we want you as the people, take the plays you like, man. We not holding a gun to your head, man. Like we just telling you, going through the biggest games, the most interesting ones that probably have been talked about all week and will be talked about, up until Wednesday until it's time to prepare for the next week. So
Yeah,
take what you
and
want, no gun to your head.
we got a nice little fall crisp in the air this morning. It was like mid
Feel it.
50s, starting to feel like football weather. Got out the bomber jacket for the first time. Shout out to my wife,
Yeah.
birthday present earlier this year. So I'm loving it.
Not the
She
fiance
knows
too,
me.
y'all. The wife. The wife.
Wife, wife now.
Come on now. Come on now. You know what it is. And yeah, I wish I could say there was fall in the air, but I'm looking at my weather app. 73 degrees, high of 84 today. So yeah, not
That's
happening
perfect.
until yeah. I mean, it's not too bad. Not like we were experiencing in July and fucking August, I can tell you that. But we'll go ahead and get into it. Me and Sam's got some Ryder Cup to attend to. I got some birthday parties to attend to. So we will start with the beatdown, man. Um, I, I, I don't get it. Your boy's talking shit to you already. Look at him, man. He's shameless, bro. He's shameless. We're gonna have that game. We're gonna talk about them Jayhawks too, Chuck. Don't you worry. We're gonna talk about them later.
Mizzou
But
fans don't know how to act when they're good at football, you know.
yeah, man, come on now. Just because Luther and Brady were confirmed they're playing, today, he's just off the rails. It's what he does. But anyway, like I was saying, back to the beat down that happened in Eugene, Oregon last week. Obviously, we hate to see the fan favorite fall. It wasn't fun at all. There were times during the game that I was contemplating, are they going to score at all? But it happens. I think everybody early in the season when they were predicting this was definitely one of the games they knew they were going to lose. It looked like JV versus varsity. Like the athletes on Oregon side were just different. Colorado wasn't able to protect anything. I think Shadur has been sacked like 23 times already this season. So we don't have to get that fixed up. But who better to see when you need your offense to look a little better than the University of Southern California Trojans? Okay. I was highly disappointed. We obviously gave them out as a pick last week as well. And I mean, they turned it up at the end of the game, whatever, but
They
they
sleptwalked.
let
It
Arizona.
was
Yeah.
embarrassing. It just
Look,
it just showed up and like it looked so effortless and it was so annoying that like they got way too cute. So
yeah. And I get it. Like, I understand that it's a look ahead spot. We'll talk about look ahead spots a little bit later in the show as well. But I mean, Arizona State's on their backup quarterback. You saw all of the mismanagement that Herm Edwards did while he was there, and all of the problems that created with the roster, kids transferring out. It was a little concerning that USC allowed them to stay in that game. So, line is at 22 again, a little bit lower than it was last week, or well, I guess 1 point, a half a point higher because I think it was 21 last week for Oregon. So How are you feeling about this one, Sam? I don't know.
Well, I'd like to start with just a little bit about last week. I got beef with Dan Lanning this week, and it's not because of what everyone else is beefing with Dan Lanning about. That motherfucker
Mhm.
scored 35 points. 35 points in the first half. 7 in the second half with a team total at 45 and a half. Are you kidding me, bro? Like, come on. You're going for it in the fourth quarter and everything. Score the points. Who cares?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know why everyone's complaining about like running up the score and everything. Like, good teams run up the score on bad teams. Like that's just what it is. Oregon was completely or Colorado completely was outmatched in that game on the lines of scrimmage, and it showed. And I don't know that USC's defense is going to be nearly as big an issue this week. I mean, I know it's been a problem the last year and a half, and it's been Lincoln Riley's Achilles heel his entire coaching career so far.
Mhm.
But I think the way to beat USC's defense this year is being able to run the ball, and Colorado can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. They can't protect the
Colorado
quarterback.
can't do that. No, and I mean, you got Bear Alexander. I think he's going to have a huge game. He looks great in fucking
Oh yeah.
pads. So, I
He
mean,
does. I can't lie.
I think Caleb's going to be able to pick his number. I'm going right back to the well. I was telling you last night I was scared about it, but a couple whiskeys in, we went right back to it. I got USC. I got USC every which way. I mean, I think Colorado will be able to score a little bit better than they were against Oregon. I still think USC's defense is susceptible to giving up some points here, in a little bit more ways than Oregon was. And Colorado's at home. It's going to be an early start, like 10 a.m. local. I hate that it's like that. Like, why are you making these kids play at 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock on the West Coast? Like, this is a big game, and to have to do that at 10 a.m. Like, we complain about 11 a.m.s and like SEC games. 10
Mhm.
a.m. is tough, dude.
Yeah, and 9 for USC. So, like you said, like it's rough. I was talking to a USC fan. Shout out to Coach B if you're watching. But I was looking at the number for the first quarter, obviously, because I'm going off of that. Like, you're a college kid, on USC side, they traveled, so it's not like they went out or anything like that. But Colorado kids, maybe they went out last night, maybe they had a few drinks at the crib, whatever. But it's at 17 right now. And I kind of wanted to take it on the under just to, see if it would actually hit. But I thought these are two teams who want to throw the ball around the yard. And Arizona State was able to help them cover this number last week in the first quarter as well. So I'm a little hesitant on that. Probably not going to take that. But I'm gonna be honest, Sam. I'm scared. Like, I got burnt last week, man. I want to choose Colorado to cover this number because I think this probably is the best team that they face, but or they have faced. Let me say that they have
Yeah.
faced.
Mm,
But I mean,
I'm I'm souring on
uh,
USC.
yeah, I'm just not as impressed with them. Like, if we're talking about in the landscape of the Pac-12, I really think that Washington has looked the best, bro. Like,
Oh,
if Michael
hands down. I
Penix,
think Oregon looks better than Washington.
oh
Or
yeah,
not
yeah,
Oregon.
for sure,
No, Oregon looks
the
better than
USC,
USC. Sorry.
yeah,
Um,
and I mean,
and I think Utah could be better if they would stop being way too cute with Cam Rising, like we saw last night. Like, I don't understand why you're playing all like, or why you're doing this thing with Cam Rising where he's splitting half the reps with the first team in practice and then he's just not playing.
yeah,
Like, do you think you can walk through the schedule like your team's good enough? It's not. Like, Cam Rising is what makes that team a playoff contender.
hmm
And you're gonna choose to not do like not play. It is what it is. So I think in a loaded Pac-12, like I I don't know that Colorado's going to be able to hang close. I just don't think they can run the ball. But seeing Drew Pine do what he was able to do last week, Drew Pine was able to put up yards and everything on this defense, and they were able to score points. It made me question whether or not I was willing to back USC, but I think they're the better team here by a lot, and I think the offense is going to be a little bit sharper. I'm not trying to
Yeah.
sleepwalk through this one.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, this is the game that they want to make a statement. And shout out to all the people that are watching on Twitter. If you want to see comments, put up like Chuck Star. Go to our YouTube. It is in the link that you're watching. Just exit out, click the link. You'll be there. You'll be able to comment, whatever. But yeah, I think again, like I said, last week probably was a look ahead spot. This is, even though again, Colorado in the grand scheme of things isn't winning the Pac-12. I think this is the statement win that they kind of want to have. Everyone wants to have in the Pac-12, at least the upper echelon teams, to separate themselves from Colorado, because after the first couple of weeks, obviously people thought we're going to be contenders. So it is what it is. I'm just scared to take the number, but I think it will be a high scoring game. The total's at 73. I think that potentially could go over. Caleb versus Shedeur. We're going to see two of the best quarterbacks in the country. So we'll see what happens. But I want to keep it pushing and go to our next game. The Gators are going to Lexington. This line started off at 2.5 on Monday, plus 120 for Florida on the money line, which is an official play for me. All right. It's now currently at minus 105 for the Gators on the money line, plus 1.5 for the spread. I would take that all day. The reasoning that I took Florida so early in the week is because I watched that Vandy game against Kentucky, and Vanderbilt was stretching the field against these DBs for Kentucky. Now, I don't think they're as bad maybe as they shown. Obviously, somebody could sleepwalk against Vandy. We've seen it before. But I just don't believe in their DBs. I know, their running game at Kentucky is very good. They're solid. Their offensive line is pretty good as well. But if you're looking at that Vandy game, the final score was not indicative of how the game went. And I'm just not sold on Kentucky just yet. And if you look on the other side, Florida, I don't want to give a Gator no credits. You know that. But I mean, they look pretty good with Graham Mertz. I think they've looked a little bit better than I thought. The defensive line is really, really good. I think that, Ricky is going to be hell for those DBs this week. So I got the Gators, unfortunately. I don't want to say it, but I got the Gators. What you feeling?
If you've watched the show over the last couple of years, one of the spots I like to hit on is when a ranked team goes on the road to an unranked opponent. If the home team is favored, usually I think that hits at like a 70% clip plus. Mm-hmm. So this is a spot that I like. I think Kentucky, their Super Bowl is Florida. Like, it's not Georgia. It's like they had that 30-year streak where they didn't win a single game. So that fan base has just got it ingrained in their heads where Florida is like their Super Bowl. And I think an early kick, Florida or Kentucky's going to come out ready to go. This is one of their biggest games. And it's the game I think that's going to that you need to have to separate. Maybe put yourself in second in the East conversation. You're going to have to play Missouri too. That's going to be a tough game for them, but I think Kentucky's O-line play is better this year. That's what really hurt them last year. And then on top of that, I'm still not a believer in Graham Mertz. He has looked better this year, but I think this is a way for Devin Leary to kind of announce himself to the conference. And I can see I am betting Kentucky. I'm not too confident in it, but that's just a spot that I like whenever we see these kinds of lines.
Yeah, I feel you. I think I was a little disappointed in Devin's performance last week. He threw some bad interceptions. Yeah, and it is, and like I said, it's Vandy, bro. Like, it's the little bro of the conference. We always say on here, the only reason they're in the SEC is to raise the average GPA. But I'm just, they got to show me something, man. They really got to show me something this week. And I do think that they'll have their opportunities. Florida's DBs, they can be had. I don't think they're bad, but I think they can be had. But he's got to take care of the football, man. And I think if they can run the rock successfully, then they will win this game. But again, Florida's D line, man, I've been pretty impressed. They're gonna have some guys playing on Sunday on that line, so we'll see what happens, man. I think this is a good, perfect early kick game because I think it's going to be interesting all the way through. And like you said, like this is the Super Bowl for them. So we'll see what happens. And Mo, you are crazy if you're taking
Yes.
Colorado Mountain. You are crazy. You wanted me to say it? I'll say it to you. You're crazy.
Don't give it to the books. Just give it to me. What we betting?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, put that on an offering plate, man. The church needs it, man. Come on now. Tripping. We'll go to another game that I have a little interest in. It is the Fighting Irish against the Dukies down there in Durham.
Frauds.
Oh, frauds. Oh,
Notre Dame. Frauds.
Oh. Well, this is my thing, Sam. Are they going to have 11 players on the field for the whole game this week?
I mean, it's been like I didn't know that it's been a thing for multiple games this year.
Oh, it's been for multiple games? I didn't see that.
I saw somebody tweet from like it was a game that didn't really like it wasn't as significant, obviously, but I think it was like East Tennessee State or whichever team they played. At the beginning, I think it was the first official week of college football, not week 0. It was like garbage time, but they had 10 players on the field, and East Tennessee State almost scored almost scored a touchdown. So like it was one of the few plays that they actually had success on and almost scored, and Notre Dame had 10 men on the field. And I don't understand Marcus Freeman's logic in his like explanations and everything with the end of the game management. Like, who cares if you get a penalty? It's moving an inch. Like, who gives a shit? You had them stopped. If you have 10 players, they ran right where the extra player would have been, and you would have had them stopped. And Notre Dame just can't do it, man. Everyone wants to say it was Brian Kelly, but look, I've had to deal with shit. I live right in Notre Dame heartland. I've had to deal with shit for a year and a half now, ever since that announcement was made that Kelly was coming to LSU. It brings me so much joy to see those fans suffer. Like, I love them. The only person who hasn't given me shit about this is Sosa, and I think it's because we both understand it should be a win-win. But Sosa ain't here, and I'm calling him frauds, and I'll say it if he wants to pop in too. So
there's an APB out for my boy. All right, I don't know where he was. I don't know. He said Sam Hartman looked like Jesus, and he was looking like Peter.
Why are you throwing the ball? They have one timeout. Why are you throwing the football? Run the fucking ball.
The offensive play call at the end of the game, bro, was a little egregious. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, when you're looking at this matchup specifically, Chuck said it. Riley Leonard, man, has been one of the surprises of the college football season. I think Duke's defense, they had a stat on game day before we started. They have not allowed a pass in the air over 20 yards all season. All season. So the DBs for Dukies, they're going to be ready for this matchup, okay? I'm not blown away by any of Notre Dame's receivers. I know they have their tight end that's really good, but I'm not really confident in taking Notre Dame, especially going on the road after, getting disappointed, a night game at Duke at that, which Duke's environment has turned into one of the better ones in college football. We all know what happens in Cameron Indoor. I mean, that's undeniable, no matter how big of a Carolina fan I am. But these night games, at the football stadium have been pretty good too. So I got 2 plays in this one, my brother. I got the Dukies on the spread. I got it at 105. And I also got the little sprinkle on the Dukies to win the game, man. Like, I don't really have confidence in Notre Dame. And I think that if Kyle McCord was a competent human being and, had 2 eyes and 2 ears and 1 mouth, then I think that game should have probably been a 10 to 14 point win for Ohio State. But again, quarterback usually keeps them in the game. So I don't see Notre Dame winning this game, bro. I just don't.
Yeah,
So
I don't disagree. Like the night environment was good for Clemson. I think they're going to get the same kind of energy in the stadium tonight. Um, and it's kind of it's. I mean, Notre Dame goes into a bye next week, but their next game is USC. Like they have to win this game. If like they have to win out if they want any shot at the playoffs. And if Duke wins this game, they're sneaky playoff contenders. Like they have a
they're
matchup
in the
with
top
Florida
10.
State. They have a matchup
Mhm.
with Florida State, and that will likely be that could be a rematch in the ACC championship if Duke
Yeah.
continues doing what they've done. I mean, they played
Mhm.
solid defense. Obviously, Clemson was able to move the ball up and down the field, but they were very opportunistic with the turnovers in the red zone. Like they buckled
Yeah.
down the red zone. If you're a bend don't break defense, like you can stay in every game whenever you have a quarterback like Riley Leonard. And
Mhm.
I mean, they win this game, he's going to be maybe in Heisman conversations. I think it's a little.
Mhm.
I think it's mostly on the West Coast this year with those
Yeah.
quarterbacks. But I mean, I think
Mhm.
if he plays well, it's going to be hard to ignore this. Like it's going to be then they're going to have the Florida State matchup in a couple weeks, and that's going to be a really fun game. Um, Clemson was able to run the ball, and that's one of the things I hope Notre Dame knows that they can run the ball because they didn't do it last week. I don't know
Yeah.
why, but like just run the ball. Like Will Shipley was able to go for over 100. I think Estime will have a big game. I think Notre Dame could lean a little bit more towards that this week after kind of getting criticized all week about um, the play calling down the final stretch. So I think it could be a back and forth game. I do have a ticket for the Dukies plus 5.5. So I think it is the year of the plus sign. I think we are very close to 2007 territory in this season. We just need some big teams to kind of slip up.
Mhm.
But overall, it's been fairly lenient towards the plus side. There's been a lot of upsets, a lot of underdogs covering, and I think it's just a very balanced year in college football. And I think this could be one of the games we look back on like, oh, I mean, at the end of the year, it's a big surprise for Notre Dame to beat Duke or no Duke to beat Notre Dame.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely agree with you. And like I said before, if you're just now tuning in, please join us on YouTube. If you want to see your comments shown, I will post every single one except for when Mo says that I look inside like Drake. I don't know where that came from, Mo. But shout out to you, brother. Thank you for watching, of course. Um, but did you say big teams, Sam? Did you say big teams? Because I mean, look, man. Let me get on my soapbox, okay? I haven't. First of all, let's start with this. First road game of the year, right? I love first road game being in week 5. All right, give us the first 4 games at home, first SEC test at home. Love that for us, okay? Um, do you know the last time that the Auburn Tigers have scored 14 points in this game, Sam? Do you know?
2014.
Oh, no, dang. Well, look, I wish it was, but it's been 2020, so it's been 3 years counting this year. Um, this offense last week was one of the worst offenses that I have ever seen in my entire life. Okay, they
Can't
went
throw
to
the ball.
A&M at all. Okay, the running backs are pretty good. The line is relatively decent, but this is a one-dimensional team. Okay, now there's some history here. Okay, there was a 45-14 beatdown that Hugh Freeze landed upon one beloved Kirby Smart the last time these two saw each other, and I think Kirby's going to take it personal, like Michael Jordan. I think he's going to take it personally. This line has been at 14, 15, 14 and a half all week. All right. I do not understand it. I do not get it. And I realize that, yes, Georgia has had slow starts this year. That's undeniable. But I don't think a one-dimensional team can beat a Kirby Smart defense. And we still have a top 20 run defense in the country still, with losing Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Devontae Wyatt, all these great, players that have played on Sundays. So, in my opinion, I'm laying the 14 and a half with the dogs. I even got it at 15. This is my second Georgia play of the year. I only give y'all Georgia plays when I'm 100% confident in them. Okay, I know I can be a homer at times, but I really just do not see this football team even scoring in the first half, let alone, being able to cover that 14. So how are you feeling?
Kind of similar to you. I think Auburn, they can't throw the ball. So I think getting being a one-dimensional team against Kirby Smart's defense is awful. That's a terrible plan. So my biggest thing is like, why are you trying to run this like read option stuff with Peyton Thorne? That dude's not athletic. At least Robbie Ashford's athletic and like can run. Like if you're gonna
Yeah.
run these QB runs and QB designed runs, why not throw in the guy that can actually run the ball?
Mhm.
It doesn't make any sense to me. They keep trying to throw the ball. They can't. Like even A&M's defense was able to stop them. Like they got gashed by Miami earlier this year. I don't know, man. I don't know why this line is so low. It feel like I understand it. The only thing that makes me a little bit nervous is it being in Jordan-Hare. And
Yeah.
that's Carson Beck's first road test. But
Hmm.
I don't think Auburn's anywhere good enough to hang around with this team. Like I just think Georgia's going to manhandle them. Might look at a first half line as well, but I do have Georgia minus 14.
Yeah. I would also, I know I gave y'all a Brock Bowers underplay for the South Carolina game that did hit. Not as confident in Auburn's linebackers, and they about to be in for a day with 19 coming on the field. I think Dejon Edwards is also going to be able to run wherever the hell he wants to run. His prop is at 72.5, I think, yards rushing, if y'all wanted to take that. But I got the dogs, everything, man. I mean, again, I know weird stuff happens on the plains. All right. We saw the kick six. We saw, the one of the most miraculous plays against us, where the DB, let the ball hit him in the hands and then let the Auburn player catch it and score a touchdown and then
Just bat
transfers
it
to
down.
Auburn the year after.
Just bat it
Um,
down.
it happens. Okay. Stuff happens on the plane, but this Auburn team doesn't have that magic, bro. And Hugh Freeze is an offensive guy, and he doesn't really have this offense humming like that. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, hospital bed boy is in for it today. That's what I'm saying to y'all. But we'll keep it pushing to your matchup, Sam. The Tigers of LSU, close one last week. I don't know, man. I only think I didn't take that 18 because you're my boy. Like I didn't want to bet against your team. But I really didn't think that game should have been as close as it was. There were a few mistakes, but you saw, in the second half, once they started stretching the field, Arkansas couldn't do anything with LSU.
Yeah, no.
So I'm sure that's going to be the game plan against Ole Miss. Jalen Milroe, if he was good for anything intermediary and not, just deep shots, I think that Bama game should have been a 20-point victory. Not impressed with Ole Miss's offense, bro. This is the second week in a row against Tulane, and then against Alabama, where the concepts are creative. Lane's always going to give you creative concepts and make you have to work for it. But the output and the results just haven't been there, bro. So I would be inclined to take y'all with the -2.5. It's not official, more of a lean. But I want you as the expert to let me know how you feel about this one.
I last week wasn't great. I think it had more to do with like the defense. It played well in the first half. Like you buckled down in the red zone and prevented the game from getting out of hand early because Arkansas was moving the ball, but you kept it in a one possession game. And we saw something that we didn't see last year, and that was Jaden Daniels bouncing back from a bad start last year, especially against like Arkansas, Auburn, and a couple other games. Whenever he struggled early, he never got it, never found it in the game. And this is the best offense in the SEC. I'm ready to say that. LSU's offense is the best offense in the SEC. They finally have a running attack. Logan Diggs has been great. He's incredible. You got Caleb Jackson, the freshman. You got like 3 or 4 other running backs that can work in and play really well, and are experienced guys. So I think this offensive line has finally found its stride. Like the only game it struggled was Florida State. Granted, like that was the best probably defensive line you'll play all season. So I expect them to struggle in that game. But at the same time, Ole Miss's offense has not been impressive. They can't run the ball. Their offensive line is not good. They can't continue drives. I had to look up this stat because I wanted to make sure I had it right. LSU, I think the game is gonna be back and forth. LSU's defense still doesn't have it quite figured out. And I'd like to get on a soapbox myself and tell people to shut the fuck up about Matt House, because LSU fans want to blame Matt House like it's his fault that his defensive backfield has had to bring in 4 transfers each of the last 2 seasons. Like last year, you got very lucky and all 4 of the transfers hit. This year, guess what? It's going to be a learning curve. Like you brought in guys that are going to be here for years and not one and done, because like you have to rebuild the depth in that room, and there's no depth right now. So like they're playing very soft coverages, trying to keep everything in front, but at the same time, it's not working. Like if you're going to play quarters and cover 3 and all these coverages that are back that are like trying to keep everybody in front of you, and you can't tackle in space, that's just a recipe for disaster. If you're going to give up big plays, regardless of what kind of coverage you're in, I would rather see the defense be a little bit more aggressive with it. Like blitz, do some blitzes. Like don't keep everybody out, and like don't drop everybody back. Like I think you'll be able to get pressure in this game. And a lot of the struggles last week, especially in the second half, because that was like actually whenever I was able to watch, was LSU's defensive line was getting to KJ Jefferson. KJ Jefferson is just a fucking tank, and he can get through arm tackles. Like we just didn't finish sacks. So it was breaking down in the back end because the defensive line didn't finish. I mean, you saw what Harold Perkins was able to do to Jackson Dart last year. Like I think it's going to be kind of similar. I don't think Ole Miss can run the ball, and the biggest thing it's going to come down to is third downs. And LSU is 7th in the country. They're essentially converting 60% of their third downs, which is an incredible number. Like it's one of the reasons why this offense is, I think, the best offense in the SEC. Ole Miss is converting 35% of their third downs on offense. It's an awful third down offense, and they're the worst team in the league in penalties. I think this game could go over. I don't remember the total number, but I am leaning over. I think it'll be back and forth, but I think it's going to come down to teams that can extend the drives, and I think LSU can do that better than Ole Miss.
Yeah, the number's at 67.5. So I was looking at the number too, because I was kind of iffy on which side to pick on this one. But I'm still leaning LSU to be honest with you. I think you guys can go to Oxford and get that field goal. And you have impressed on the road this year. I mean, that Mississippi State beat down kind of showed me, okay, this offense is prepared to take it wherever and win the game. So
yeah, I'm not giving out any full plays on the game just because I don't trust LSU, or I don't want to sound too much like a homer. I mean, last year I kind of got into the point of giving out LSU spreads just because I'm betting with my heart. I am betting with my heart, but I'm not making them official plays on this show until I am 100% confident in this team. I have an LSU ticket, but one play I am giving out is Logan Diggs over 67.5 rushing yards. He was, I think, 14 carries for 97 yards last week against a better Arkansas front. I don't trust Ole Miss's offense or defensive front 7 or defense at all, really. And I think LSU will probably try to keep it out of Ole Miss's hands a little bit, get that running game going. I can see a big day for Logan Diggs, and this offensive line is one of the best in the SEC. They're going to rely on it very heavily.
Yeah, for sure. And, like I was saying, you made this point as well. The only concern with LSU I have is a secondary, but Jackson Dart will give you gifts. And with the transfer things, it kind of hurts when your best safety gets a brain tumor, like before the season. So,
there's nothing you knew about that.
Brooks. Yeah, exactly. So, it's going to take time, like you said. So we'll see how it works out for him today. But we want to bring our segment. I think we've had this segment 3 weeks in a row now, Sam. It is Talk It Out. Now, for those who haven't watched the show before, Talk It Out is when you talk to your friends, you're kind of iffy on a bet. Both of y'all don't know which way it's gonna go, and you just gotta talk it out. Okay. So it is the Jayhawks of Kansas. We got two basketball schools on here today, which is interesting. But we got the Jayhawks of Kansas. They are going to Austin, Texas, and they are facing a Texas team who, in big games, they've been impressive. In the games where nobody really watching, they've just been all right. And I think we've said this for their college football playoff hopes. They have to go undefeated. Like, I don't think there's any choice other than them going undefeated and making the college football playoff with, how the landscape is looking, especially in the Pac-12. So it's the line's at 16. Can Texas pull away at the end of this game? Yeah, they could. But I don't know. I'm a little, I don't know. I'm iffy on it. That's why we're talking it out. So, Sam, what are your points on why either team can cover this number?
It's one of the biggest look ahead spots, I think, this week. I mean, Texas has OU next week. So I don't know, man. It drives me insane. I think it's next week. I want to double check on that real quick.
Yeah, it's next week.
But yeah, okay. So the thing for me is, I think OU or Kansas is a scrappy team. I think Lance Leopold is a great coach. I think he's gonna have them ready. I mean, Texas has come out very slow in the first half in their home games, and it's been a little bit surprising, especially with the offensive caliber, offense at the caliber that it is, and the receiving core and quarterback combination. Like, I don't know what their struggles have been early and made them start so slow. Jalen Daniels is a very good quarterback. They have a very good running back. I think it's Neal for Kansas. Kansas has a good 1-2 punch, and their defense, I don't think it's going to be great, but it's enough to get a couple stops and keep this one within 3 possessions, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at some stats right now. Texas has a top 15 scoring defense, holding opponents to 12.5 points per game. It ranks in between Georgia and Notre Dame. So it'll be probably the best defense that Kansas will see potentially all year. And I agree with you. This is the hugest look ahead spot in the world. I think we would have had an Oklahoma game on here as well if they weren't playing Iowa State and they weren't one of the worst teams we've ever seen in our entire lives. But I don't know. Like, I'm still very, very iffy. Like, I know, Kansas's offense is a little underrated. Their offensive coordinator is really good as well. But I think Texas could potentially pull this away at the end. They don't want how long ago was that when they got beat by Kansas, Sam? That was 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah, so they don't want that to ever happen again. I mean, that was an embarrassment.
And I don't know that it's going to be like that. I'm not calling for an upset or anything. I mean,
yeah,
it wouldn't surprise me with where Texas has been over the last few years. But at the same time, well, you were looking up your stats. I looked at the stats as well. Kansas, 60.5% conversion rate on third down. Texas, 37.
Oof.
I think that, I mean, Kansas is a very balanced attack, and I think they can very much keep this game close. So, in my opinion, it's a sneaky game for Texas. Like, the look ahead spot, it's going to be a huge OU game coming next week. Like, that's going to be a battle for first place in the Big 12. And I don't know that I'm sure the SEC will keep that game every year, but it's the guaranteed game, or it's the guaranteed last time this game is played, like, for good. So I don't know why the SEC would fuck that up, but just going forward, you don't know what future realignment stuff does to that game or how it impacts that game. So I know it's the last time in the Big 12, so that'll be a big game next week. And the slow starts make me lean very heavily towards Kansas. maybe look towards the first half line, see what that's looking like. I think Kansas is going to be a scrappy team all year. They're not the most athletic, but Lance Leipold is a great coach, and I really like what he's done so far at Kansas.
Yeah, sure. So definitely a game to watch. 3:30 ABC. Tune in. I think it'll be good. But we are ready to end the show out with our plays for the day. Sam, I will let you go first, brother. What you got officially for the people?
All right. It's a long one. Kentucky
CBS
minus
season.
1.5. Yep. Kentucky minus 1.5. USC minus 21.5. USC team total first half over 27.5. USC full game team total over 48.5. We're going right back to I told you we're laying it all down. We're going over in the Colorado game because I think Colorado is going to score some points to balance this out, unlike last week, 72.5. Georgia minus 14. Logan Diggs over 67.5 rushing yards. Those are the plays that we've already talked about. And Duke plus 5.5. I have Arkansas plus 6. I don't believe in Texas A&M ever, and now they lost their saving grace, which was Connor Wakeman. So you got the guy that throws backwards with his back to the line of scrimmage. We got the return, baby. The return of Max Johnson is alive and well, and I love to see that for Texas A&M. So I think it's a rivalry game. Alabama is coming to town next week for Texas A&M. It's a definite look-ahead spot. It's in Jerry World. It's not a home game, so it's going to be pretty split. Give me Arkansas plus 6. I think they're going to keep that game close. It's always been close in Jerry World. I think the only time it wasn't was last year whenever that bullshit scoop and score. Oh, it still drives me insane, man. KJ, just hold on to the ball, man. Just hold on to the ball. That game was Arkansas was about to win that game, and that was a 14-point swing. I'm still holding a grudge on it, clearly. And then I got Oregon first half, minus 14.5. They play Stanford. I'm not going full game, 27, because they got Washington next week. That's a look-ahead spot. Next week's going to be a great week of college football. A lot of look-ahead spots this weekend. But I do like Oregon first half. I think USC put up 42 points in the first half against Stanford. So yeah, give me Oregon minus 14.5. I think their defense is a lot better than USC's, so I think it will be probably similar to last week where it's 28-0.5. So give me that Oregon spread in the first half. South Carolina plus 12. This line makes no sense. South Carolina's been tested on the road. They looked really good in the first half against Georgia. Defense and offense were humming. Tennessee, I don't believe in them this year. As long as Joe Milton is the starter, I do not believe in them. Their receivers can't catch, and Joe Milton makes some dumb mistakes. So I don't understand why this line is as high as it is. I think these teams are pretty evenly matched. I know South Carolina's lost a couple, but still they've played a much tougher schedule than Tennessee thus far, and Tennessee lost their only test that they've had. I have Alabama minus 14.5. I don't believe in Alabama this year, but Mississippi State sucks. They're awful.
Yeah,
so bad. And I think Alabama's going to be able to do whatever they want. Their defense. Mississippi State's going to try to run the ball still. They're still doing that. And I don't know why. Their offense is built to run the air raid. I understand you want to run this pro-style system and everything, the new offensive coordinator does, but do so to the benefit of the benefit of the roster you have. I think Alabama's the defense is gonna dominate. It's probably gonna be pretty similar to the LSU game. So I have 14.5 with Alabama. Finally, Washington minus 20. Washington's putting up numbers similar to the 2019 LSU team. I will not compare them to the 2019 LSU team because they are not playing the same competition, and I have a little bit of bias involved in this. But the offense is humming. Arizona lost to the aforementioned Mississippi State team, and Arizona is not a good football team. I understand it's on the road. I like Washington minus 20. I think the offense is going to be absolutely humming, and they put up damn near 50 points last week in the first half. So
half, yes.
I mean, if you want to do first half with the potential backdoor, I'd like that as well. But I just have the full game minus 20. I think they're 20 points better than Arizona, regardless.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you, brother, for those. I am on par with you with a couple. I do also have the Dukies at +5.5 all at the crib. I sprinkled a little bit on the Dukies to win the game. That's +185. So y'all can go with that if you want. I'm on the opposite side of you on the Kentucky Florida game. I got Kentucky at +120 on Monday. Again, I just think the Kentucky DBs are going to be in for it today. So I got that working. I also am on the South Carolina Gamecocks. I have a little sprinkle on the money line as well. And I definitely took the 11.5. That's all I could get. I couldn't get at the 12. That's -110. Just don't see Tennessee as being 10 points better than any team in the SEC East. I mean, I other than maybe Vandy. Yeah, but other than that, like I think every other team in the SEC East is competent enough to keep these games close, and the line makes no sense. So I did sprinkle a little bit on South Carolina money line as well. That is at +330. That's the big whale play, like they say on Twitter. And then I got the dogs, man, -14.5. If you want to take Brock Bowers receiving prop, you can. I'm not personally take it just because Mike Bobo forgets that he's on the team sometimes. But it's at 58.5. You know, it should be relatively easy if this game isn't out of hand by the third quarter. And I think the dogs win big, man. We're gonna keep this shit rolling and go into next week with the utmost confidence. So we'll see what happens. But Sam, thank you as always, brother, for joining us again. If you're new to the show, please subscribe if you're watching on YouTube to Win the Day TV. Follow us on Twitter at Paid for Play. Please, please, please follow Sam. His @ is right there. My @ for my podcast is right here. Like he said, we'll be back next week with a lot of good matchups, especially in the SEC. You know, we two SEC boys, so we'll have a lot to talk about in terms of those matchups. But until then, y'all, we'll catch y'all later, man. Peace.